Alrighty. Oh, there we go. Hi, you guys. Welcome on into the stream. Let me know if it's looking and sounding good for y'all. And hi, Kat. Welcome into the stream. It's great to see you guys. Welcome back to Kwanzaa Unwrapped. It's been a minute since I've streamed. But yeah, I'm excited to get into the conversation today. And hold on, I'm looking up my notes just like disappeared. Okay, let me pull those back up again. But yeah, like I said, welcome back to Kwanzaa Unwrapped. If you're new here or if you happen to be joining from either Nard's audience or Phenom's audience, hi, I'm Asmara, and this is my series, Kwanzaa Unwrapped, about challenging the status quo and highlighting Black creators, entrepreneurs, and educators who I think are redefining Black culture. So if you're not caught up on the series, make sure to check out the playlist. It is linked below, and it's also on the front page of my channel. And this first, or well, I will say the first episode, the one that went up yesterday, that was all about community building, and it was with Harriana Hook and X Mira Mira, who are some other great creators. Y'all should, tune into that episode. And today we're doing a live panel discussion with Nardvillain and DaFemalePhenom. So y'all can read the title, so y'all probably got that. But yeah, you'll meet them momentarily. But this week, I'm going to be alternating between premiering pre-recorded videos like I did yesterday and conducting like live stream activities. So yeah, make sure that you are tuned in every day this week for the new content. And hi, Nardvillain. He's already in the call, but yeah. Hello. Oh, who is this? Marvelise. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Welcome on into the stream. How are you guys doing today? Thank you guys for joining us live. Oh, I will say, because this is a live panel discussion, I may not be as active in chat for those who are familiar with like my live streams. I like to read chat and stuff like that, but feel free to leave your messages because I'll still be checking it periodically. If you guys have questions also, feel free to drop them in the chat and I could incorporate them into the conversation. I might not get to it immediately because, I have a script that I'm going by, so I might actually end up getting to your question. But yeah, feel free to engage. That's why I like doing live streams, is I like the live engagement part of it. And yeah, I'm happy that you guys are here. Yes, you said it right. Okay, perfect. Marvelise. That's very pretty. And Soul, hello. Is it not? Or no, not Zoe. Okay, so I'm looking at my phone. The text is so small on my phone. Anyways, I feel like my mother, I can't see. No shade, she might be watching this. Okay. Anyways, I don't want to yap on for too long because I do want to get into the conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce y'all to who we'll be speaking to today. So our first guest is Nardvillain, who is a multimedia producer and a Sims 4 content creator, mostly recognized for his comedic skits with a sinister twist. Nard has been making content since he was a teenager, but he created the Nardvillain brand in 2020 to document his Sims 4 gameplay. He has since amassed over 300,000 followers across all social platforms. Aside of making Sims content, Nard has also been an entrepreneur for the past decade. He runs his own production business, highlighting the local entertainment scene in San Diego. Nardvillain continues to blend his background in video production and love for horror and comedic storytelling to create a welcoming space for his community. So everybody, welcome Nard to the show. Let me see. Let me bring you back on stage. Okay.
Hey.
Hi.
Wow, I need to copy that intro. That was great.
Yes. Use it for your website and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I want to also introduce Phenom. So our other guest is DaFemalePhenom. She is a community manager, a special effects makeup artist, and a horror enthusiast, bringing together women and femmes of color in the horror genre. Phenom began creating content in 2013, sharing her life as a wife and a mom, but she made the switch to gaming in 2017 after a suggestion from a friend. Twitch has since become her primary platform, allowing her to connect with others that share her interests in horror, wrestling, and more. Frustrated with the lack of representation in the genre, Phenom also founded the Scream Reapers stream team, designed to challenge stereotypes and break barriers within the horror industry. Outside of streaming, Phenom has committed herself to raising awareness about autism following her youngest son's diagnosis, with a particular emphasis on communities of color. So, everybody, leave a round of applause for Phenom in the chat.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Yes, I'm gonna
Oh
gas
my
y'all up,
gosh.
okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. So, like I said at the beginning, welcome to day 2 of Kwanzaa Unwrapped. So today's theme is Kujichagulia, which is the Swahili word for self-determination. And I've invited both of you here to talk about the ways which you're using your platform to be authentically yourself and kind of craft your own story. So with all the guests I've had on the channel, or I will have on the channel this week, I feel like this idea of like representation, visibility, and kind of like owning who you are has been a consistent theme throughout them. And so I feel like, especially in society, there's a lot of expectations of like who Black people are, like what we can be, what type of content that we're supposed to make, quote unquote. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today to dig into the conversation about like who you choose to be and kind of how you show that through your content. So yeah, that was a bit long intro, but I want to start with your guys' origin stories. So I'm gonna start with you, Nard, on this question. I'm interested, what were you like growing up? What were your kind of hobbies, your interests? Did you have a dream job? I'm interested in kind of seeing who you were as a kid and kind of how did that influence who you are today. So take us back, growing up in North Carolina, what was little Nard like?
Wow, yeah, that's a good question. Little Nard was kind of like he is today. Kind of like to himself, a little nerdy. I used to be really into music, so like growing up, I was like listening to like Michael Jackson, Stone Temple Pilots, Jimi Hendrix, and I was listening to, and watching like horror movies as well. So like I was just like a movie music nerd, with like a little bit of that band geekness too, like in middle school, I kind of like grew up playing the trombone and then went from trombone to tuba. And then in eighth grade, I went from brass to strings. So I ended up playing
You got the
guitar.
whole orchestra.
Yeah, right. And
Okay.
so,
That
so
is
that's when I realized,
dope.
like, you know what? I think guitar is where I want is what is the instrument that I want to do. So then I was just like, playing guitar a little bit more, learning songs and stuff like that. And in high school, I ended up eventually uh, joining a punk band. So because I was mostly into like punk and a little bit of metal and stuff like that. So I was able to like kind of mix the two in to other bands and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really cool, and I felt like I was kind of content creating at that age as well, because again, I was the only child, so I had to actually entertain myself. So whenever I would like play with my GI Joes and stuff like that, I would actually record myself, like, because I used to have this like little tape player, like this little radio that is almost like a talk boy, but not quite a talk boy. I don't know if you guys are. I don't know how old
Oh yeah,
everybody
I know
is,
about
but
that. I
so
know.
I had this
Yeah.
tape player that can allow you to record your voice. So I
Mhm.
would literally like play with my GI Joes and stuff, and like kind of commentate and do commentary over what's happening with my GI Joes, like
Not you being
wrestling.
a YouTuber before YouTubing.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
So
dope.
I was seriously like the nerd of all nerds growing up, and
Awesome.
it's weird because I was so shy and very insecure about a lot of things. So like, it just amazes me how like that little kid is like this big confident kid now, with a little bit of insecurities here and there. But
Mhm.
I was able to
Hmm.
bring all those, uniqueness and all my little talents, like guitar, being a film nerd, being into music and stuff, to what I do today, which is create content with The Sims 4, but also create content for other brands as well. So being able to
Hmm.
know like, wow, I was literally recording audio before it was really even a thing, just
Mhm.
recording stuff on the radio to document myself doing stuff, to like now where I can actually professionally edit audio podcasts now as a living. That's one of my other side jobs that I do from time to time. And so it's really cool being able to go back and say, man, if I can tell little Nard that one day all this little geeky stuff you're doing is really gonna you're gonna really grow up to actually be able to do this for a living. So So that's pretty much my start to when it comes to creating content, how I kind of how I was raised and stuff like that.
Yeah. When did you start playing? Out of curiosity, when did you start playing The Sims? Because I know you're one of the OG Simmers too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
In high school, actually, I started out on a little PC, compact Presario days. And
Mhm.
I had a bootleg version too, by the way. So yeah, I played Sims. I actually played Sims the deluxe edition. I still have it actually. I don't know. It might be down here somewhere. Hold on.
Awesome.
This is one of my. I can't find my original copy, but here's another copy where it has all the Sims Mega Deluxe. So yeah, so I
Okay.
started playing back in 2001, back when I was a junior, I believe, maybe going into my senior year. That was back in the Completions semicolon colon days, back when you had to put the cheat in to get like I think like 1,000 simoleons or something like that, something
Mhm.
crazy. But yeah, that's when I pretty much started playing The Sims. Was back in like high school. Fell in love with
Hmm.
it too, and went from The Sims, and then I played a little bit of The Sims 2. And then when I had just graduated college, I believe Sims 3 launched. But I had a computer that didn't really. I had bought Sims 3, but it didn't work on my computer, so I had it, but wasn't able to play it until I got the digital version, and that was after I bought Sims 4. So it was Sims 2, and then Sims Free Play. I don't know if y'all remember Free
Mhm.
Play, the mobile
Yes.
joints,
Oh my
and
goodness.
then Sims 4,
Mhm.
and then back to Sims 3. So yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
so you've been content creating, gaming, doing a lot of these things since you were pretty
mhm,
young.
yeah.
Since like teenager, high school age.
Hmm.
So I'm also curious about you, Phenom. So what were you like growing up? Like who were you before the female Phenom? What were your
Oh,
hobbies, your interests, your passions? Were you always interested in horror also? Like
yes.
what were you like?
So I am the middle child. I have
Oh,
two
me too.
sisters. So when I wasn't terrorizing them, I was making making like hard masks out of paper mache. And I started my first horror film that I saw was at 5. I was about
Mm.
5 or 6. My dad would work the late shift every night, and I didn't get to like spend time with him that much because he worked so much. So one night I decided to sneak downstairs, and I'm like, I'm just going to hang out with my dad. And he said to me, well, are you going to have nightmares? And I'm like, no, I'll be brave. So the first film I saw was Halloween 1978. And after that, that was like our little thing. Like he would come home from work and like tap me and like, you sleep? And I'm like, nope. And I would run downstairs and we would have snacks and we would watch like horror films. And how I got interested in special effects makeup was I saw American Werewolf in London. And that werewolf transformation, I remember saying to my dad, like, how can I find out who the makeup artist was? And he said, well, it's in the credits. And I said, well, can we fast forward? And he said, just wait until the end of the movie. So after the movie, he let me sit there and I watched it. And I saw Rick Baker did the special effects makeup. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. And then I saw Beetlejuice and I saw V.
Mm.
Neil did the special effects makeup. And I'm like, this is what I have to do. And my mother, she didn't really like understand it, and she didn't really like
Hi,
Aussie.
Austin.
Oh my god. Okay, go sit down. I'm so sorry.
That's our
um
fourth guest.
yes. She didn't really understand it, but my mom was just on the verge of, like if this is going to keep her out of trouble and keep her from terrorizing her sisters, I'm for it. And she was willing to support me in it. And I remember I told her that I wanted to make blood. And she's like, what? And I said, I need syrup, I need food dye. And I'm naming all of these things. And she went to the store and got it. She like helped me with like, and she had the little Polaroid camera and she's like taking pictures. And she's like, you're going to need this because you're going to be famous one day and they're going to want to see them. So she's taking pictures of it. And I got, when I was in school, I was in elementary school and they wanted me to participate in this play. I didn't want to be in the play. I wanted to do the makeup. And I did the makeup so good that I got suspended for 3 days. So
Wow.
it
Wait,
was
why'd you
really
get suspended? Because it was like,
I
it was
so
too
we
scary?
yeah, it was so I was like doing like I went full in. Like I'm like putting blood in tubes and I'm like blowing it and it's like spread the blood is spreading everywhere. And they were so mortified and so disgusted. Like they called my mom and I'm looking, I'm like, I'm in trouble. And she just looked at me and she said, you know, you're not supposed to do that, right? And I said, yes, ma'am. And I said, am I suspended? She said, no. She said, but you can't go to school for 3 days. She said, but we can't do that type of stuff. So she luckily didn't punish me, but the support that she had gave me, it let me know that even though I was like the weird kid that was doing all of this stuff and I wasn't your typical girl, like I didn't play with Barbies, I played with wrestling men and GI Joe, and
That was
I
me.
was I was listening to ACDC and stuff like that. So she always let my sisters and I like be ourselves, and she never saw us as weird. Even if she didn't understand it, she's just like, "This is who you are. Embrace it and have fun with it." And I started horror gaming Friday the 13th on Nintendo. I remember I couldn't get past this board and I was just like, I don't want to play it anymore. And she said, take a break and then, go outside and play and, touch some grass and then come back. So that's how I got introduced into horror gaming, and it just took off ever since. So, hmm
I like what you said about like how your family allowed you to still be authentically who you were,
yes.
even if they didn't necessarily understand. So,
hmm
you're out here making your school look like a crime scene and
Yes.
playing with wrestling
Right.
figures.
Yeah.
Yes.
And look where you are now,
Yes.
okay?
Yes. Exactly. Hmm
So I'm also interested in what were your guys' lives like before you got into content creation. So I'll go back to you. I'll go back to Nard on this one. But yeah, let us know like a little bit more about what your life was like in 2020 when you decided to start making Sims content.
Yeah, so basically, man, it's crazy because I feel like I've been content creating for quite a while. So
hmm
when I was right before the pandemic, I was actually, I guess, content creating. I had my own blog and it was called the Nardcast. So I was initially a podcast at first, which is hence the Nardcast. And then I ended up branching out. Instead of just doing podcasting, I actually started doing a full on entertainment blog website where I would feature chefs, bartenders, things to
Awesome.
do in the community because I'm in San Diego, so I wanted to kind of something where I can kind of give back to the community. Like I'm really into the lifestyle of like food and cocktails and beer and beverages and stuff like that. But I felt like my skill set wasn't like crafting up cocktails in recipes. My skill set was I can make those things look beautiful on camera. So I was like, well, how about I take my skill set and go out into the community and feature all these other talented people and give them a platform to showcase their stuff. So that's what I was doing
Mm.
before 2020. I was working at the news station for a little bit, and then I got laid off there, and then I went
Mm.
full on blogging or whatever you want to call it on the blog website or whatnot for a few years, and then that branched out into a full on production company where I would just go out and take photos because I would just post everything. I would take photos of my food and I'll post it to Instagram. And then a lot of the restaurant owners and the PR people and their marketing people would hit me up and be like, "Hey, I see you post all this good content. Could do you actually like contract out work or whatever?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I started independent contracting and getting all these hospitality clients and restaurants wanting to actually do stuff for their social media platforms and websites. Until then, when 2020 hit, obviously, it was harder to go into restaurants and actually go in and feature chefs and feature bartenders because stuff was being shut down. So I was playing The Sims 4 at the time, and so I was just sitting around, and I'm like, man, I was actually borderline almost depressed because,
Mhm.
I mean, you don't know where the world's going. I have
Yeah.
all this creative, just all this creativity that I want to do, and I don't know what to do with it. I felt like I wasn't able to contribute to the community. I didn't know how because, like, the world's pretty much shut down. So I just felt like I wasn't able to provide a service as much as I was before the pandemic. So I had all this creativity. I was like, well, what do I do with all of this? And so I was like, well, I kind of like playing the game, and I was like, well, maybe I'll document my Let's Play. Because I'm a huge fan. I don't know if y'all rock with T. Pendale,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a huge T. Pendale fan, and I've been watching his stuff, especially his Friday the 13th gameplay, for quite a bit. So it kind of inspired me to like, you know what, like I can resonate with that dude, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I can't find, which I wasn't really searching for yet, but I was like, I can't really find anyone that I really can resonate with as much on the in the Sims community because I wasn't really actively looking for that. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just, post a few of my videos and see how I feel about it. And then if I like it, then I'll share it, and then I saw this one other simmer, SimSav, who does a lot of Let's Plays, and that inspired me to be like, all right, I'm gonna start posting mine. So I was like inspired to just be like, you know what? I got this extra time on my hands. Let me just post stuff to YouTube, see what the audience would say, and then yeah, it from there it was like people started to really enjoy the uniqueness that I was bringing to the community. And then a lot of people actually like the fact that they found someone that they can kind of resonate with now, whether it's I'm a black creator or whether I'm introducing this like unhinged culture to the Sims that's a little bit
Drowning
different.
all your Sims, you know.
Right, right. I mean, it's
Dag,
there. It's
dag.
Yeah.
I
but
love
it's
that.
unique. Yeah, it's like I do it in a more unique kind of way, I would say. So, um, and I just kept going. I just felt like the audience or the community that I was building was really into it. So yeah, I say before that I was just content creating and working and helping other people out with their brands and their content. And then yeah, things slowed down, and I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise. It gave me another creative outlet, so it kept me from being a little too stressed out, too depressed, while still working. Because I still got a lot of work. Like people were still hitting me up, like, "Look, we trying to do this Zoom thing. How does that look in this new world? Like we need somebody to edit our Zoom conferences and all this stuff." So yeah, work
Awesome.
still kind of was still a little bit busy for me, but it still gave me a creative outlet. And
Hmm.
yeah, and ever since then, it's I've been 4 years in strong.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Awesome.
definitely think 2020 was that year that changed a lot of aspects of our lives, and I think it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely interesting to see all the content creators who,
Hmm.
started their channels or started new channels around that time, and kind of
Yeah.
how that has unfolded.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So, Phenom, I want to talk a little bit about what was your life like, I guess, before you got introduced to content creation. So, I know before you started making horror content,
Mm-hmm.
you started YouTube to document your wedding, and you also
Yeah.
started like mommy vlogging. And so,
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit about like what was your introduction to just content creation in general?
Um, I was like, I had my youngest, and I was like, I had postpartum, which turned into depression, and it was really bad. So I went to my therapist, and she was like, "Well, what if so?" She was just getting an idea of who I was before I became a mom. And I told her, and I said, I used to play video games, I watch wrestling, and I did all of these things. And she said, well, what is one of the things that you miss the most? And I said, actually gaming, like that. Like my cousin and I sitting there playing on our Sega, like I miss that. Like that was, good times. And she says, well, what, your cousin can't be around. So, is it a way that you can still play games with people? And I'm telling her about multiplayer and how it's evolved and stuff like that. And I have real bad social anxiety. So she gave me an assignment and she said, well, I want you to start playing video games with people. And around that time, Friday the 13th, the game by Gun Media came out. And she was like, well, what games are you really wanting to play? And I said, I really want to play this game because I haven't seen anything like it. Like, it's so
Hmm.
good. And she gave me a year subscription to PlayStation Plus, and she said, I want you to at least set aside some time for yourself each week and play this game. So
I
I'm
like this
playing.
homework.
Yes,
I
it
know,
was good
right?
homework. And I did it, and I met a friend who was she's a content creator, and she was playing the game, and I'm like playing the game, and I'm getting into the characters, and I'm making all of these voices for Jason and stuff, and everybody is like dying. And I'm like, oh, you guys think I'm funny. So I like that was the thing, through the game. And they were looking for that. And one day we were in game and somebody said, well, have you thought about streaming games? And I said, no. I said, well, how do you do that? And she said, I'm going to help you. So I'm streaming from my PlayStation and I bought these two lamps from Walmart because I was doing it while everybody was sleeping. I put the kids to bed, my husband was asleep, and I'm like, I'm just going to stream while everybody is sleeping. So I had these two lights, and they're like sitting here, and I'm trying to make soft lights, and I folded a piece of printer paper and taped it over the lights so that I could use it for my PlayStation. And one day, she called me and she said, well, do you know where the Micro Center is? And I said, yeah. I said, I love that store. So she said, well, how far away from Towson are you? And I said, I'm right by there. My dad is in that area. So she said, well, meet me here. I have something to give you. So she upgraded her setup to like this awesome, like $7,000 rig setup. It was bad. And she met me and she said, well, I have this PC. She said, I don't have any monitors or anything, but I just want to give you this because I think you should stream and I think you'll be really good at it. And I'm like bawling. I'm trying to give her money. And she's like, no. She said, don't pay me. She said, the only way that you can pay me is that you're going to use this and find your happy place again. And she told me how to download OBS. She told me how to add alerts and do these things. And my very first game that I streamed Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight. And I have been a gun media creator per se ever since, and hard creator ever since. And I owe it all to her because I wouldn't have known what to do or how to do it. But I'm glad that I did do it because it's been amazing. It has been an
Mhm.
amazing journey.
Yeah, we
Friday
need to
13
give
is
credit.
definitely my favorite
Yes.
too. That game is
Mhm.
that's
Hmm.
my game right there.
Yes.
I
Yes.
was about to say we need to give credit to your therapist and to your friend. Like,
Yes. She doesn't want to be recognized for that, so I won't mention her name, but my therapist, she was amazing. I think her name was Dr. Simmons, and she didn't know about gaming, but she learned about it through me and her sons. So, yes, very amazing. Yes, so
mm,
grateful. Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I also want to get a little bit into how you guys came up with your channel names.
Mhm.
So I feel like in the spirit of self-determination, I feel like one of the big ways we can kind of give something an identity is to name it. And
Mhm.
so Nard, I want to know with for you, like what is kind of like the reasoning behind your channel name? I feel like we kind of got glimpses of it as you were kind of telling your story, but yeah.
Yeah. I obviously like the idea of the stories of villains and how villains become villains, but I also want
Mhm.
to pay homage to MF Doom. Because
Oh.
he's a rapper and he has so many like different characters. Like he goes by MF Doom, and then he also has like collabs where it's like Mad Villain, which is a collab between. Sorry about that. We know, Alexa. We know. But but yeah, but yeah, but when he collabs, he has like different people like Danger
Now she's
Doom
still
and
talking.
MF Doom. Yeah, I know. Danger Doom. I think it's done now.
She's so rude. So rude.
But and then he does a collab with Madlib, which is obviously his Mad Villain album. And then he also goes by Victor Vaughn and then King
Mhm.
Ghidra. So it's really cool, and I love the aspect of how he characterizes a lot of his DJ names or whatnot. So I think when I initially wanted to do Nardvillain, I wanted that same concept where like all my lifestyle stuff, my podcasting is like Nard Cast, and then all my gaming can go under the aliases of Nard Villain. And then whenever I want to do my food content again, I'll do Nard Eats. So like I just try
Ooh.
to like do everything with like Nard in the front, and then whatever's the side of it or whatever I'm doing gets like that last part of my name. So Nardcast, Nardvillain. Because I didn't want to do Nard Gaming because I feel like Nard Sims, which is my Instagram handle, because Nardvillain wasn't available because that was my personal Instagram account. So I was thinking like, I didn't want to tie myself down to one specific game. So I was like, well, I'll just go with Nardvillain. So if I ever wanted to do Friday the 13th content, then Nardvillain felt more,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, yeah, versus like a Nard Sims playing, Friday the 13th or
Mhm.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something crazy. So I just wanted to leave that opportunity for me as a creator to be able to branch out into whatever it is without using my full legal name.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
paying homage to MF Doom, and then again, I was always using Nardvillain for quite a bit of stuff, like my Instagram name, and I was like, you know what, let me just use it for my gaming too. So, and there we go, Nardvillain.
Yeah, and I feel like it also implements kind of like the way your videos kind of have like a dark
Yeah.
twist, or like
Hmm.
when you're drowning Sims, or
Yeah.
making 100 babies, like
Yes.
I try
it
to
kind
keep
of
it.
ties into that too.
I try to keep it on brand with that, like try to
Mhm.
keep it that sinister vibe. Even when I'm giving a review, I try to still
Yes.
add a little bit of the darkness to it, just so I can kind of stay on brand
And you
and
do
just
it
stand
so
out a little
well.
bit. Yeah, I'm just trying to like just be different, like because I feel like a lot of the content sometimes feel like it's the same, but just by with a different voice. So I just try to like switch it up and be like, I'm gonna just give a positive review in the most sinister, cringe way possible,
I
and go from
love
there.
it.
Hmm.
I
So.
love his videos. I love it.
I appreciate that. Appreciate
No problem.
So I want to know for you, Phenom. I know that your alias came
Mhm.
from a wrestling radio show that you
Mhm.
did way back in the day. But
Yes.
yeah, can you tell us the story behind how did you come up with the name DaFemalePhenom, and kind of how that translated into what you do now?
So I was on the wrestling radio show, and we had to come up with names and do an intro and stuff. And I am a huge Undertaker fan. Like all of the
it.
dark wrestlers, I love them. So, but how I got into wrestling was my first wrestler that I fell in love with was the Undertaker.
Mhm.
So I tried out wrestling school for a little bit, didn't really like it, wish I had stayed with it. And I always said that I wanted my wrestling character to be like a female version of The Undertaker. And we were sitting around and we were tossing around names. And I think one of my co-hosts were like Death Valley Princess, and I was like, no, that's not me. Like, I don't want to be like a queen or a princess. I want something that's like strong and fierce. Like, I want
Mhm.
to be like, Beyonce, like a Sasha Fierce.
Mhm.
And one of my other co-hosts, he was like, well, how about the female phenom? And I was like, oh, cool. But I was thinking like it's spelled out THE.
Mhm.
And he's like, no, that's not you. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, because you don't follow rules. He was like, you. He's like, what if we do it and put your spin on it and make it like DA? Because nobody is
Yeah.
expecting that. So I was like, oh my God, that's cool. So ever since then, I just like took off with it, and I was going to change it. I was going to I was going to have my streaming name Mrs. Voorhees, but then
Mm.
that was taken. So I was like, you know what? I'll just keep this. And then, I just stuck with it ever since. So
That's
that's how I
dope.
Hmm.
came up with
You
it.
got some great friends.
Yes.
I just,
Yes. Yes.
You
Shout
need to
out
give
to
me the
Cam.
hookup.
Yes.
I remember that one Undertaker fight where it was Undertaker versus Hulk Hogan, and I believe he
Yes.
beat Hulk Hogan, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I felt like everybody was just so disappointed, and I was like, "See,
Yes, I
that
was
is the
one
type."
of yes, I was one
Yeah,
of I was sad. I was very
yeah. I was like,
sad.
that is the type of endings I would like to see every once in a while because you weren't
Mhm.
expecting the Undertaker to win like that.
Yes.
So I
Mhm.
love those moments like that,
Mhm. Yes.
which is what I try to create in my content sometimes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, not Hulk Hogan, Brock Lesnar. That's who it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, this is just a random side note. I remember, Nard, when you did that wrestling video where you made Sims characters,
Yes.
Oh
That's
yeah,
made
how
them
I
wrestle.
found him.
yeah,
That
Yes.
yeah.
That's how I found him. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
That
yeah.
just
I want.
reminded me of that.
Yeah, I want to
Mhm.
keep that going and start doing the announcing and like try to do the commentary. But it's a lot of work though. That's a lot of work. But
It
I want to bring it
is.
back. I want to bring it back.
Mhm. Yes.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, okay, we digged into a little bit about like who you were growing up and kind of what you do now. Now, I want to go a little bit deeper. I want to go back into the archives a little bit. So, I'm gonna start with you, Nard. We talked a little bit at the beginning of about how you started making content in high
Hmm.
school.
Hmm.
And I know you put out a video, I guess kind of recently, where you're talking about what it's like being a content creator at 40. And one of the things you said is that you started doing music production when you were in high school. And I know you also talked about that earlier here as well. And also, you're really interested in promoting new music and artists and things like that
Dope.
way back in the day.
Hmm.
So you've been making content since, like the Bush administration.
Right.
So I want to.
Right.
so, can,
Maybe even Clinton. I think maybe Clinton too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
so, can, so
Woo.
can you tell us a little bit about like how you got into that and where that sort of part of your creativity started?
okay. So I think I don't know what happened, but I think I had this. I think hopefully going to answer this correctly, but I think what happened initially was I had a passion for radio,
Mm.
which kind of gave me the opportunity. I was hoping that that would give me an opportunity to put all of my passions all in one career, like being able to create a community around whatever it is that I'm going to be presenting in that hour of music or that hour of show. Because I come from a religious background, even though I'm not
Mhm.
like the most religious, because I'm from North Carolina.
Mhm.
So I started out in the gospel radio, believe it or not, because
Awesome.
that was the only thing that was available at the time was an AM radio station. And so I was like, I fell in love with the idea of being able to wake up with people and present them with like the weather, music, whatever it is. And plus I come from a background of music, so it was just really nice to be able to use all of those skill sets and assets that I wanted to one career. And then I moved out here and realized like, wow, I don't have any experience enough to actually kind of create that platform on radio because I only have like 6 months of experience. And I'm moving over here in California, and so I just created the opportunity for myself, and I was like, if I can't be on the radio or if I can't really be in that industry right at this moment, I'm gonna just create the opportunity by creating a podcast. And at that time, no one really knew what it meant, what a podcast was in like 2008. Like it
Mm-mm.
weren't like how it is now. So I was like creating these like local music slash indie underground music episodes where I'll throw in like Little Brother, some Ninth Wonder instrumentals, and then I'll find like some local punk bands or whatever here in San Diego and kind of feature them just to get practice on like how to introduce a song and what's important to include when you're introducing music. So I had to learn all that on my own outside of the skills that I already knew, like how to edit music and stuff like that or how to play. And so I think that's where it all just started was learning that I don't have to be in a professional environment in order to create the opportunities to create. So I was like, all right, I know I'm not the greatest guitar player or singer, but I can still create those opportunities with the skill sets that I have. So why not pick up the guitar and learn a program? At the time, it was called Cakewalk, an editing program, and just create my own music. And
Awesome.
even though I did go to school for that, but again, no one's gonna hire you with no experience. So just creating the opportunity, podcasting, and all that good stuff, kind of led me down the road of like early content creating without knowing that it was considered content creating because I wasn't doing it professionally. And that's pretty much how it all started was just knowing that I just have all this stuff and and I always wanted to just go back and listen, but oh, let me just
Mhm.
listen to my own podcast. Now I have my own stuff, I can just listen to it and then invite others to kind of listen to it too. So for
Hmm.
me, honestly, it's always been about creating platforms and communities for not just myself but for other people. So I
Mhm.
know I'm not the only musician that needs their music shared to a few people. So I always like to be able to know, like, okay, I have this platform now that I can go all over San Diego and find people that want their music shared, make them feel like the star for the hour, which is
Mm-hmm.
why that's why I was like, you know what? I like that part of content creating. I
Yes.
like being able to create that community that feels like
Mhm.
they're part of something now, whether
Yes.
they're into horror or punk rock or hip hop,
Mhm.
or they notice that I'm really into MF Doom. So now they feel like, oh wow, I just found a creator that rocks with MF Doom because
Mhm.
they're paying homage to Madvillain or whatever.
Yes.
So just stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, and it keeps me going when I start realizing um, that I'm not just doing content for myself, but I'm also doing it for others because now people are looking forward to me creating content and stuff like that. So I don't know if I answered your question. I went on a little tangent there for a minute,
I
but
enjoyed it.
yeah. But that's how I got my start in content creating is in all that good
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Can
my
you
bad.
also talk a little bit about how you found yourself in San Diego? So, you obviously you're from North Carolina, and you
Yeah.
said you started with gospel radio
hmm
there. So, like, what was the transition from North Carolina to San Diego? Was it for
Mm.
college? Like, is that when you moved,
hmm
or like, how did that kind of all unfold for you?
Oh yeah. I actually graduated in North Carolina, and then I did my internship for the summer in California, and then
Dope.
And what
came
was your
back.
degree?
Mass communications with video
Awesome.
production and audio recording
Mm-hmm.
as my concentrations. And so after I graduated and did my internship in LA, came back for a few months to North Carolina, did radio for a few months. So I already knew I was going to move back to California to pursue radio initially. And so when I moved back, I started looking for radio gigs, but ended up landing a insurance job full time to to pay the bills. And so I was doing that while podcasting for whatever, and while looking for a radio job, and never got that radio job. But I
Oh
ended up working
no.
in television though, so I did do television for about 6 years or maybe longer now. But yeah, so
And that's also when you started the Nardcast as
yep,
well.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Started the Narcast in 2008, and I moved to California in 2006. So it took me about a good year and a half to realize, like, you know what, if I'm not going to be on the radio, I can at least kind of create my own opportunity. So
Mhm.
it took me about a
Mm-hmm.
good year and a half to be like, I'm gonna create the Narcast, which ended up being the um, just a local music show, and then I branched out about 8 years later into a full-on website, and
Mm-hmm.
then in 2014, I think, or maybe 2017, I started doing independent contracting. Actually, it was 2014. So about 10
Mm-hmm.
years, I've been kind of on my own, doing my own thing now. So
Can you also talk about how do I want to put this? Like I know you talked about this earlier, but like creating, I feel like the story of how you got into creating was about creating a platform, not just for
mhm.
yourself, but for other people. So I guess can you elaborate a little bit more on
Yeah,
like why that was important to you?
yeah, absolutely. Um, I felt like it was important because I feel like not everybody can go mainstream too, including myself. So I was like, the idea of being able to create a platform for those who are maybe just like me, growing up with like in a religious background or being black, just being able to still have like, I just wanted I wanted people to be able to look at me and be like, oh wow, like I can resonate with that person.
Mhm.
So I wanted to be able to create that avenue, not just for specific genres of music, but for people as well, which was really nice because the San Diego community was very welcoming when I started out as a content creator with music. And then when
Awesome.
I moved on into the food industry and started doing content creating through that, I've noticed the same thing. I felt like it was a little harder because I don't look like your average San Diego person. So creating content at the time when I was in my earlier 20s, I felt like I was competing with like a lot of people who were a little bit more local than me, and then also not like I said, everybody's a little bit more unique. But when I was growing up in like the '90s, it was really hard
Mhm.
to be black and be like, oh yeah, I rock with
Yes.
alternative. I'm
Mhm.
listening to like
That is so true.
Led Zeppelin
Mm-hmm.
and Slipknot, and
Yes.
I used to get picked on for that,
Mm-hmm.
and people used to call me like Hootie. I'm like, out
Oh
of all the black
wow.
guitar players, I'm Hootie. Like, what about Lenny
Oh,
Kravitz or
right.
Jimi
Hello.
Hendrix?
Oh my
Out of all
gosh.
people, I'm getting called Hootie. And Darius Rucker, he's pretty cool now. So,
Mm-hmm.
but back then, I only want to be with you. No one was rocking with that song in the
I
'90s.
was.
See, I wasn't. See, I wasn't. But yeah. Then as I got older too, I just felt like I felt like for me, every period of my or every stage of my content creating stage, I felt like I was inspiring people in their journey. Like now I'm 40, so now it's like I have so much more to offer even at 40 now because I can encourage people who are either older than me or even in their 30s to be like, look, you got all these skill sets now from your 20s into your early 30s that you can be a content creator now, whether you
Mm-hmm.
just do taxes. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've been doing taxes for 20 years. You know how much money, how much AdSense you can get if you can just give out like some not legal advice, but just like some little tips, little
Mm-hmm.
tips on
Mm-hmm.
managing your money or taxes or whatever. So I just like now I'm in this position where I can not only be a gaming creator, but I can also give people advice on how to edit their videos or how to do production work or whatever it may be. Because now people can look at me as like, wow, he's actually pretty seasoned. He didn't actually just start Sims content creating
Mm-hmm.
4 years ago. He's been in the game for 20 years. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Definitely
Yeah.
like your other experience has influenced the work that you create now, whether it's
exactly.
with, other brands or for yourself or
Yeah,
Nardvillain.
absolutely.
Can you also talk a little bit about like the transition of creating freelance work
Mhm.
to being a content creator? Like, has there any been anything that kind of surprised you, I guess, with that transition? Yeah, just what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
I would say like my content versus my brand stuff or my client work is actually really different. Like I feel like I hate to say it, but I feel like I'm just a little bit more lazier as a content creator, even like versus like my actual work, because I feel like I have to really put like a lot of effort because I have to film.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go and get a gimbal. I got all these lenses. I gotta deal with lighting. I have to deal with audio. I'm working for like brands like NBC,
Oh wow.
EA sometimes, and like bigger brands like Next Door or whatever. So I feel like sometimes the be able to like high quality is a lot more important. So when I go from that to my own stuff, I just get a little lazy. But I noticed like with content creating what I do, it's still hard because I got to go in the green screen. I have to go in and grab footage from the game. I have to write the script. I got to be the on-cam talent.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate the fact that I do go out and work for NBC and I do all these other client work because it still kind of, even though I'm a little bit lazier with my stuff, it still gives me I'm still crafting my skill set because now I
Mm-hmm.
know how to rock the green screen and key out stuff. So if I ever needed anyone, if any client needed that, then I know I got that pretty much wrapped. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely pretty different. And I try not to get too burnt out either because I know like for during the day I might have a shoot. I might have to go out and shoot something for or film something for like 4 hours, then come home and then try to write a script and then like go in and grab like I said grab the footage and stay relevant with the brand as well. It could be a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
it could be a lot when you're taught when you're doing similar things. So
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Is
yeah.
there a part? Is there any like sides of you that get to exist as Nardvillain that maybe doesn't get to exist as when you're creating as the Nardcast?
Mhm. Um, I feel like I hate to say it, but I'm actually kind of the same. But not but scale back a little bit. Like I could be a little unhinged because like with my clients, like a lot of my clients are like reoccurring clients, so they kind of already know my personality. They know who I am. I'm still outgoing, outspoken, like kind of how I am usually. But I'm a little bit more reserved because again, I got to be a little bit more on the professional side. because like I might know people from specific clients, but then there might be a new client, and kind
Mhm.
of have to be on my p's and q's. I gotta you know be a little bit presentable and stuff like that. But as you get older, you kind of I don't know. You kind of like not cares. Oh, I ain't gonna say not care, but you just kind of you're more confident in your own skin.
Exactly.
I feel like now I know how to not worry about any of my insecurities that I had as a content creator or at working for clients at 20 versus now at 40 too. I've
Mhm.
noticed. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So thank you for sharing, a bit of
yeah,
your story, kind of how you came to be who you are
Amazing.
now.
yeah, yeah.
So I have some more questions for Phenom. So we talked a little bit about um, how you got your start with content creation, how you started like vlogging, your history doing wrestling radio,
Mhm.
and also kind of how you got into horror creating.
Yes.
So you've been horror creating since, or that's a weird way to say that. You've been
That's
a horror
okay.
creator since, since around like 2017,
Mhm.
and you eventually created a stream team called the
Mhm.
Scream Reapers. So can you
Yep.
talk about your experience being a horror creator and kind of what challenges or obstacles you faced that led you to create this community?
So I started out playing Sims on stream, and I started out just like playing, like I was this variety streamer, and I wasn't really happy. I couldn't figure out what it was, and I couldn't like figure out what it, because I felt like when I produced horror content, it wasn't doing as well as Sims content, but I wasn't happy. So I started introducing like horror stuff into Sims, and everybody is like, "Oh my God, this is awesome!" And then I eased them on in to like the horror games, and that's when I'm like, okay, this is where I need to be, and I'm going to stay here. And it wasn't like a lot of us. Like I watch Corey Kenshin, I watch Poise, I watch um oh my God, Cup of Noodle, and I kept hearing the same thing, like, oh my God, you like these things, and oh my God, I didn't know that you like horror. I'm so glad I found you. And I'm just like, are y'all looking? Like, what is going on? So, and then I started getting opportunities, but the opportunities that I was getting was, I felt like it was like keeping me in a box. And I found myself like unhappy with like promotions and sponsorships because I really wanted to do stuff and showcase stuff that fit my brand, and I just was like, oh my God, like what is happening? And then I started finding stuff like people were like, small businesses were like, hey, we're a purse company. And we heard you like skulls. Would you mind showcasing this? And I'm like, yeah. And then they started asking, well, do you know other people who would like to feature our products too? And I'm like looking through all of my content creator friends, and I'm like, gosh, like it would be amazing if we had like this community or this organization full of people who love these things also. And I didn't really think that I would make partner on Twitch. It wasn't my goal. I didn't really know what I would do with it. I was just like putting out content and doing stuff that I love. And then it started, once I became partner, like people were asking, well, like, are you going to do a stream team? And I'm like, nah, because I saw, and it's like no shade to the other stream teams, but I just wanted to do something different. And I just wanted to do something that would benefit the people that were on this team. I didn't just want people to just sit there and like get free game keys. I wanted to build like a unit and like a family, right? So I remember I had this idea, and I'm looking around at these stream teams, and I'm joining these stream teams. And when it's time to do collabs or when it's time to showcase makeup, and I'm like, well, I only do special effects makeup. I don't really like beauty industry makeup. Is there something that I could do? And then it was always, well, we'll just keep you for Halloween, or we'll just reach back out to you for Halloween. And then that made me sad. So I'm like, I need to do something else. And I just came up with this idea. I sat down one day and I just wrote down, like, you know, all of these ideas that I had, like all of the things that I wanted within the people of color community for the horror genre, like all of these things. And I came up with this idea and I reached out to another community leader. Her name is Brand. She's the owner of Brown Girl Gamer Code. And she loves horror as well. And I said to her, I said, I want to run something by you. I said, I have this idea. And when I was expecting her to be like, you know, stuff that you hear growing up, and when it doesn't suit what everybody likes or what everybody is used to, and they're like, I don't like that, or I don't think that's a good idea. So I had already had it set in my mind, like, she's going to think this is stupid and it's going to be trash, and I'm just not going to do it. And when I pitched it to her, she's like, "Oh my God, get that off of the paper. We need you." And when she said that, something like clicked. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to do this. And it was like a year. And she kept getting on me, like, I haven't heard anything about this stream team. Like, what's going on? Like, where's the application? And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to launch it on the 31st. So I had this big announcement, and I was expecting people to just be like, nobody wants to see that. And then people in chat were like, oh my God, I play horror games. How can I join? Or, oh my God, I love horror games. How can I join? And I was like, oh my God. So I don't want like a huge thing, right? Because I have social anxiety and I always join a stream team and then I'm in there, and as it grows, I kind of like I'm like moving to the back a little bit. So, and then I become less active. And I was sitting there and I was like, well, how can I do this? And something was like, you know what, you don't have to have like a million people. Like start with something small. So I started out, I think when we first started Screen Reapers, it was about 10 women in the team. And then I started getting DMs. And then I started getting emails. And then I started getting emails and Screen Reapers like, when are you opening up? And then I opened up, and then I had like 10 more. And I'm like, okay, that's enough. And then I said, people started DMing again. So the first go round, we were doing like invites. Like I invited people like, hey, I'm trying out this new thing. I would love your feedback. I would love to start this with you. What do you think? And they were like, yeah, we want to do it. And then I started getting applications. This go round, we literally had to like turn people away. And I felt so
Mm.
bad, but I like teared up a little bit because I looked back from where we started and look back from this idea that was on paper. And I felt so bad that I had to turn people away because I really want something. Because, like, the horror community and special effects makeup is like Caucasian and male dominant field. Like, you don't see too many African American women or Latina women who are doing horror or doing special effects makeup. And if they are, you don't hear about them.
Mm.
So I just wanted to get these amazing horror creators together, and I just want to showcase them and let it be known like that we love this stuff too. Like we can, you know, show up at the Fangoria Awards and host, or AMC Fear Fest. We've done a lot of things, and the feedback that gotten from the community and from our supporters has been really, really rewarding and made me feel like I was doing the right thing, because that's why I wanted to start. And even though we're like doing things like for content and stuff like that, I pride myself in building like a safe space and like building like a family unit. Like we have movie nights, we have like some of the members, they're not close with their families, or they're alone for the holidays. Like we always pick those times to do like little events, or like to showcase them, or just to like hang out with them in Discord. I try to like teach them things that I've learned like through content creation, because I know how it feels like when you get into this, it's like, okay, this is OBS and we can do this with this, but I just wanted to be able to help because I didn't have that when I started out.
Same.
So I feel like that's my way of like giving back and paying it forward like my friend did for me. Like I'm not in the position where I can give someone a PC, but I feel like now whatever I have that I'm able to give or help with, that's what my main goal is. So
That's what's up.
I think that's great. I think you're kind of creating community in the horror genre. I
mhm.
know it's something that you put on your the Twitch page that I really resonated with is that this team was designed to challenge stereotypes and
Mhm.
break barriers within the horror industry.
Yes.
And I feel like that just what what you've expressed here kind of sums that up.
Mhm.
As well as giving back in the ways that you can, helping people with OBS and things like that. I definitely think having that representation that like black people we are here too, but also
Yes.
like we're here to learn from each other, we're here to like
Mhm.
build community. I feel like that's definitely super important, so
Yes.
I love that you're doing that.
Thank you.
Has there been any like highlights or like any moment that stand out to you from the Scream Reapers team?
Um, I think one of the highlights is that the community of moms, like, and I always talk about the autism spectrum as well. Like, I've met so many moms, like, since my son's diagnosis, like, I remember first getting his diagnosis and feeling like, what is this? I don't know what the questions to ask. I don't know what to do. I don't know what this is. And like getting to meet so many parents or so many moms within that community, and they're like, oh my god, you understand, because I wanted it to be like, I didn't want it to be like your typical stream team where you have to stream this amount to stay on the team, because I'm a mom, I get it. Like, we're not going to always be available, we're not going to always be able to show up for things or show up for events. So being able to have somebody that, not for me, not only to lead a team but also to have like sisters and like family members who get it and understand how rough it is in this business for us sometimes, and to be able to just like decompress and sit in Discord and be like, we had a really rough day with our child today, you want to play some games. Like, I think that is one of the highlights, that I've met so many amazing people that have became family, and that I can just be myself around and not have to hide the fact that I love horror or I love Nirvana or I love to like just play games for that matter. And it's not looked at like white people things. So I just I'm just so grateful, and that has been one of the biggest highlights. We haven't gotten to the point where we have received an award or accolades, but I think this for me is my reward, because this is what the goal is, and I'm just grateful for that.
Yeah, just having like a safe, welcoming space. I
Yes.
feel like that's significant in and of itself.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you actually kind of already segued into my next question,
Mhm.
but I was going to ask about how has being a special needs mom changed you? You talked about a little bit about like the community you've
Mhm.
even found in the Scream Reapers team of having other moms who can resonate with that experience. So can
Mhm.
you tell me a little bit about how your experience being a mom with a son who has autism, like how that has kind of shaped your passion for talking about autism awareness and especially for communities of color.
Um, I like I said, when I first got in, my community has like, they have been there with me since Austin was like a baby. Like when I started streaming, like Austin was like, I want to say he was about, he hadn't turned one yet, but I feel like he was one, I want to say. So they've basically like watched my boys grow. So I'm always transparent with my community, because I'm grateful for the community that I have. Like if they do not see me live, they're like, "Is everything okay?" And I had to tell them like, we're just going through some things. And I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't understand it myself. So I didn't want to put out a narrative that I wanted somebody else to like misunderstand or misinterpret until I had all of the knowledge and all of the facts. But one day I just felt like I just wanted to just like get it out. And I just talked about Austin's diagnosis, and I talked about, things that we were going through, like challenges that we were going through. And then it turned into a series, The Adventures of Aussie Pants. So people started asking questions. I started getting more parents coming into the stream. I also got like teenagers or little girls who were on the autism spectrum who were like, coming into the stream and they wanted to ask questions along with their parents. So it has been challenging, like dealing with like some people's negative comments about certain things, or well, I've even gotten comments that where they wanted to stay but they couldn't because Austin kept interrupting, or if Austin had a meltdown, they were like, well, he needs this or he needs a nap. And
Who
instead
are
of
these people?
Yep, trolls and
Like,
people who don't have any sense. But
exactly. Like, you can
luckily,
leave the chat if you.
Right.
exactly. But you know what? I use that. I remember something that my mother used to always say, because I have grown. Now, 2000 Lily would have been like, you can ready catch these hands. But I had to look at this from a different standpoint and use my platform for good. Even if I remember my mother saying that people who are ignorant to certain things, it isn't because they don't want to learn, it's because they're afraid or they don't have the knowledge. So we can choose to use that as our responsibility to educate. What they do with that information is what they do with it. But I decided that I was going to use my platform for that purpose, because coming from where I came from, I didn't know about autism. I didn't know that it was in my community. And I made that decision that I didn't want another mom or another dad or a caregiver to be lost like I was or feel like they were alone. So I decided to, even though it hurt or even though it made me angry, I decided to take that time and just educate people, because they probably don't understand, or they probably have not taken the time to understand, or it's probably a kid who was in chat and they thought they were saying something funny, and it's like, no, that's not funny. We don't say that. We don't talk about that here. And I have, while been frustrated, have felt like I'm doing the right thing, because I don't want, and I also want to promote that autism is not a bad thing. It just makes you unique and it makes you amazing. So I have learned, and I always say this all the time, like, I have learned a lot from both of my sons, but Austin is like amazing. Like, he's so bright, he is so gifted, and he's such a gift to this world. And I just want to make that, I made that decision to share him with the world, so that there, I know there's a parent who was sitting where I was sitting and they were like, "Oh my god, my son is not talking." And I can say to them like, "My son wasn't talking either, but now he won't shut up." So just prepare yourself. So I just wanted to not only use him as an example, but you give a sense of hope and light to other parents and caregivers and other individuals on the spectrum as well, that they can use their voice as well. That you don't have to wait for your mom or dad to say something or speak up for you. You need to advocate for yourself. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
I felt like there's a few things you said that I really liked. For starters, I think, just showing, um, just being honest and
Mhm.
transparent about, your experience as a parent has
Yeah.
definitely, that sort of transparency is, I feel like, so necessary, or so
Mhm.
even like healing in a way, I guess,
It
for other
is.
people online who come across your content and can
Mhm.
resonate, or if
Mhm.
somebody just wants to feel less alone or they need hope.
Yes.
I definitely think, creating community in that way is definitely significant. I know, so I have a brother that has Down syndrome and he's
Mhm.
nonverbal. And I know sometimes, like, even in the background of my videos, like you might hear him like making noise or
Mhm.
stimming. And,
Yes.
sometimes I will be nervous of like, I don't want people to like,
Mhm.
they like, what's that noise? What's happening
Yes.
back there?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I don't always have to sit there and explain, but, even just kind of creating that normalization of like, even your son just coming in randomly in the
Yes.
stream. They're like, this is just life. Like,
Yes.
this
Mhm.
is, life for different people. So,
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
I admire that a lot.
Thank you.
Um, what else I want to say? You said a lot of great things.
Sorry.
Um, but I guess I'll end with this. So I definitely like admire like your commitment to like being transparent about a topic that's not often openly discussed,
Mhm.
especially in communities of color.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, it's like sometimes the idea of disability or neurodivergence, like that's
Mhm.
a taboo for us.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
like black people don't get that. Yes,
Mm-mm.
we
They
do.
want to play it off you.
Yep.
Yes.
Uh, I like that you said that. Also,
Mhm.
anybody listening, if
Mhm.
this topic about autism awareness and advocacy speaks to you, definitely tune into my episode tomorrow. I have another great guest
Awesome.
about this topic.
Awesome.
Um, but yeah, little promo. But
Mhm.
I definitely appreciate, you bringing about these important conversations.
Mhm.
Another topic I also want to get into, and I feel like Nard, you've been very transparent about this, is your experience kind of being a creator at 40 and kind
Whew.
of what your experience is like, I guess, as a Sims creator who is not necessarily not 20 something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I want to ask you, what I guess has been your experience being a creator in your 40s? Like, what type of reactions have you gotten from people in your life? Yeah, just what's been your experience about like what you choose to create online and kind of how your age has also influenced that?
Yeah. It's been, in my opinion, I think it's been like a humbling experience because now I'm about
Mhm.
to hit 41. And a lot of people, I don't know if they're just being nice, but a lot of people are like, wow, I didn't even know you were 40. Like, I
I
thought you
feel
were
the
like
same
at
way,
least
Nard.
33,
Mhm.
like, so when I do tell people, like, yeah, I'm hitting 40, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that.
Mhm.
And so I feel like the one thing I noticed for me is, again, like I do have an issue with confidence just in general. So a lot
Mhm.
of times when I do just go through my feed and I look at, the simming community and I see how young they look or how attractive they might look or whatever, sometimes it just kind of reminds me like, wow, you're like the Brett Favre or the Ric Flair of the
Oh
Sims
my
community,
God.
So it's like you might want to give it up, but I just also just feel like it doesn't really. I feel like age is really it really doesn't matter as a content
Mhm.
creator, at least in the gaming field. I feel like it just comes with talent
Mhm.
and consistency. Like if you can just be very talented and consistent at the same time, you can do twice as good as someone that's younger than you. But it is hard, especially outside of the community. I get a little nervous to talk to my family about like, oh, I've been in this community for 4 years now, and I've been receiving great feedback from all
Mhm.
ages, and even the Sims community and the Sims team have been very verbal about how they appreciate my presence in the community
Mhm.
as well.
Use
And
code NARD at checkout
I
if you get any
know,
Sims
Yes.
right?
packs.
I know, that's crazy. Um, and again, I think it comes with my insecurity of being an older gaming community creator. I realized that you would be surprised on how many people actually low key are like pulling for you. They're like actually cheering you on.
Mhm.
Cause like when I went home for Thanksgiving this year, like there was so many of my family members that were actually really proud of me, and
That's
it was
dope.
kind of
That's
weird
great.
to like actually see like my family members and even my friends being
Mhm.
like a lot more supportive now on like my journey, now that they see like, wow, he's been really consistent even on his personal channels. Like I'm starting to see
Mhm.
his content now, and I'm seeing that he's got like these milestones he's hitting and stuff like that. Like we're proud of you. And it's
Dope.
again, it's weird because I usually keep my content creating kind of just within the Sims community, but when it
Mhm.
starts to leak into my personal life and
Yeah.
realize how some people think it's actually pretty cool,
Mhm.
it really kind of boosts your confidence up a little bit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at my age, because if I was 20 and I was doing this, I would feel like with I would be really rocking and rolling, without any worries of like my age or whatever. There've been some
Mhm.
comments where they might be like, you should get a real job or something crazy
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I try to ignore the hate comments, because I do get I get more positive comments than I do negative, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it just depends on the day too. Like if I'm posting a video of drowning, like or unaliving like 100 Sims, more than likely people are gonna call me a psycho. So I do get like those psychopath comments
Right.
quite a bit, believe it or
Mhm.
not. So sometimes that if I don't get called a psychopath, then I feel like I'm not doing a good job at being
Exactly.
unhinged in my content. So,
Mhm.
but
Mm-hmm.
it's a journey though.
Yes, indeed.
It's definitely a journey, especially as an older creator. But I've
Mhm.
noticed that I'm inspiring others too. People are like,
Yes.
wow, I'm 50 and I play Sims,
Mhm.
and I kind of want to do my own thing. I'm like, just start.
Do it. Yep.
Yeah, just do it. There's no age. It's just you're creating content. You're providing value to someone that's gonna really appreciate it. So that's what I'm
Mhm.
doing.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I had two follow-up things questions I want to ask. So at first, okay, so you said like at Thanksgiving this past year, your family
Mhm.
was really proud of you. I'm curious, like, what was the feedback when you first started creating? Were they kind of like, I'm not really too sure about this, or okay, you do your own thing? Like, kind of, what was your feedback? The feedback at first, before you had the plaque and stuff like that.
I was literally a little low key about what exactly I was doing. I was like, yeah, I'm just kind of playing The Sims. Because again, keep in mind now, I've been content creating for at least over 20 years. So when I tell
Mhm.
people like creating something on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, in my head, I'm thinking they're thinking, up here he goes again, creating some more content for something else.
Mhm.
So usually I like, especially when I tell my parents, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just doing The Sims, just just something else that I'm doing outside of the Nardcast. And then when I realized like they're actually kind of following me and actually watching some of my content.
Mhm.
So I think what really hit me was last year, or was it last year? Yeah, last year when I went home and my mom wanted to be in one of my videos and do the plumb bob check.
I love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that on your wedding or is
Oh.
that a
Wedding. It was the
one
wedding
before?
one. Yeah,
It was
that's
the
right. It was the
wedding.
wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When I got
Wow.
engaged. Yeah, yeah. When I did
Yeah.
my engagement parties before when we left 2 years ago, I had my mom do one of my plumb bob checks, and that's when I realized like, wow, like they might not be in my face with like the compliments about my content or whatever it is that I'm doing, but they're actually low key in there, like
Mhm.
appreciating it. So I kind of regret not actually including friends and family at the beginning, because I now that I'm
Oh.
realizing that they are very supportive. I wish I kind of would have included them earlier. Like some of my friends, even to this day, will drop in and give me like 5 subs on Twitch, just because it's showing
Wow.
that they're supporting me or whatever. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of regret not including friends and family at the very beginning, because I was trying to keep it kind of private, unless
Mhm.
they just stumble across it. Because I just feel like sometimes people sometimes are low key hating on you when it's something that's different for them. So
Mhm.
I think my
Mhm.
battery died. I'll change that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at with
Yeah.
it. So it's a very humbling journey, and yeah, like I said, I wish I kind of included family and friends at the very beginning instead of being so vague about it.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now we got a message. They said we love Mama Villain. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right,
I
right,
love
right.
that cameo. But yeah, I want to ask you, Phenom, like, what has been your experience being a creator, like, in your 40s? Like, I actually was listening to somebody recently who talked about, like, a lot of times, like, when women are content
Mhm.
creators in that age range, like, they're usually talking about things like motherhood, parenting, things like that. And not that that's, like, bad or, like, not important,
Yeah.
as we've already discussed, but, being a gamer or a special
Mhm.
effects makeup artist, like, what has kind of been the reaction in your life um, with that?
I have had some negative reactions, like going for like gigs and stuff like that. Like I've heard the term before, like we were looking for somebody younger, or we would like when it's time to do
That's kind of
skits and
shady.
stuff. Yeah. Well, they all in the skits, they always want me to be like the mom or the older sister, but it's like it's cool. I get it, right? But I think the most rewarding reaction is my family support. Like my sisters are always in my chat. They're always subbing. And my dad, he doesn't really understand too much about it, but his love of horror, I feel like keeps him interested in my content. So, and I think the the most rewarding thing for me through this experience was like my dad and I were talking like a couple of weeks ago, and he was asking me, he was like, because he's from the military, so he everything has to be a plan. Like you have to plan out everything. And he's like, you need to start thinking about the future and when you're going to retire and stuff like that. And I was like, retire? I said, I don't know. He was like, yeah. He said, this is a job. He said, to think, I used to fuss at you for being on them video games and now you're making a living out of it. And we laughed about it. So, and to see the pride in his face, like one day we were out and this little boy was like buying a video game, and he said to the little boy, he was like, do you watch YouTube? And I'm like, Daddy, they cannot like we can't promote it to kids. We don't know if that's and the mom was like talking to my dad, and he was like, yeah, she puts stuff on YouTube and it's like little movies. And I'm like, oh my God. So he likes the Until Dawn and my Supermassive series because he said he can watch it like a horror movie. So he's talking about it, and to see like the smile on his face, it just makes me feel so good, like I've done something right and he's proud of me. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
my kids, like I just recently went up to my youngest son's school, and we were like waiting. He was in between lunch periods. So I pulled out my phone and I started like playing Call of Duty Mobile. And his classmate turned around and was like, are you that
Oh, you're the
sounds
cool
like
mom?
yeah. He's like, that sounds like Call of Duty. And I was like, it is. And he was like, whoa, mom, your mom plays Call of Duty. And my son is like, she has a YouTube channel. And they were like, can we follow you? And I'm like, I don't know, because I say bad words. But it's like moments like that, like you want your children, you want your family to be proud of you. So it's like I remember fussing like years ago, my oldest son, I had went to his school to pick him up and I forgot to switch out of my Twitch shirt. And I went up there to pick him up, and like
How
all
old
of
is your
the
oldest son? I'm
my
curious.
oldest is 19 and my youngest is
Okay.
8. And he talks about this story all the time. And I know that he feels good about it. Like he drags me about it, like came up to my school. But I can tell he's talking about it because that was like one of his favorite moments. So all of these kids like swarmed me. Like it was like you could see them like she has on a Twitch shirt and this, that, and the third. And she's just and I'm like, what are they whispering about? Like what's because I didn't realize I end the stream and I had to go like pick up my kid. Like that was the end thing. And like it just like chatter, chatter, chatter. And then all of these kids comes, do you know Ninja? Do you know this? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like I
Not do you know ninja?
and I remember hearing the principal say, "Is it a celebrity up here?" And they was like, "It's my mom." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So those are the moments that make me feel good and make this worth doing. And like even now when I get like I don't feel like doing it today, and my oldest son is like, "Mom, where's the content? Where's the I need content." And
That's
I'm like,
cool.
"Oh my God." But I do that, and that's what keeps me motivated. Seeing that smile on my dad's face and seeing him wanting to invest in me. Like he says things like, when is the merch coming out? And I'm like, it's coming. He's like, I can give you the money. I'm like, I don't need it. You took care of me long enough. I got it. So he seeing that is that those are the rewarding moments, and those are the moments that I live for all the time.
Yeah, I love that
Mhm.
your family is supportive. I feel like
Yes,
that's
very supportive. Very.
you got like a fan club.
Yes, yes.
I also wanted to ask Nard a follow-up question to something you said earlier. about kind of having some insecurities, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
as a creator at 40.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate a little bit more on kind of like what that stems from, or like what your thoughts are about that?
Yeah, I think I have an issue. I'm not gonna say an issue, but I do really believe that I give myself such a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like when you go viral a couple times or a few times in your career of being a content creator, you feel like once you get back to normal views or like just a normal stream or a normal some normal comments or whatever, you start feeling like what is there something I'm doing wrong or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so I start to feel a little insecure about my content, like what's
Oh
wrong with my
yeah.
content, what's wrong with me. I'm like that as a person too sometimes, not to be a Debbie Downer or whatever, but a lot of times I'll be in a room with people and like even when I was in a band or a musician, I'll be playing guitar and I'll just be on stage having the time of my life, but then there's something in my head where it's like you're
Mm-hmm.
not I feel like you're not putting in your best work. People probably not vibing like so I'm always just sometimes I feel like I'm my worst critic sometimes. And so when I'm in the space as a 40-year-old creator, I get like this insecurity every once in a while of like, man, I'm over here in the green screen cutting up, acting crazy. I'm in here doing
Mm-hmm.
the Budweiser "What's Up" skit, that no, or I'm doing a Friday skit in the Sims
Mm-hmm.
world, like the youngest are gonna be like, "What's this old man doing?" So I'm always
Right.
thinking this stuff,
Right.
So
I'm
I'm feel
scared
like
of that too.
yeah, I'm setting myself up to like, why is this fool in here acting like he's a 20-year-old, when he should
Mm-hmm.
be on his Steve Harvey moments, where he's like,
Right.
just telling us how to play the game versus acting a fool and doing skits.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm just feel like someone out there in this world is looking at all this content and it's like, wow, like he's doing it. Because if you think about it, there's a lot of people that start a little bit older than us as an actor, an actress, even.
Mm-hmm.
So like speaking of Steve Harvey, he was in his 30s when he started out as a comedian. So like, I feel like again, age is just really just a number sometimes in certain situations, and I just feel like I'm a little bit harder on myself, and I feel like me being hard on myself kind of damages my confidence overall. And a lot of times I do give myself, because a lot of people probably will love to be in my position right now as a creator, because I mean, they just don't see the behind the scenes. They don't see
Mm-mm.
like how mentally draining it could be when like you're constantly writing scripts or writing things to stay relevant,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many content creators and there are a lot more better content creators than you are and way more consistent content creators
Yep.
and more attractive content creators too. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is a world where a lot of people like to look at, attractive
Beauty.
people on
Mm-hmm.
the thing, like if you're flipping through your phone and you see some eye candy, you might be like, "Oh, okay, what's this person doing here?" and and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I do get a little insecure about all that, and I think that just tampers my confidence just a little bit and makes me feel like, wow, like barely scraping by this month with like
Yeah.
content or whatever, and then when you see that and then on top of that you're not confident enough, it kind of slows your progress down a little bit. Because when
Mm-hmm.
I was going viral a little bit, I felt like my energy, my confidence was a little bit better, it was a little bit more up there. And yeah, so I feel like sometimes going viral is like the worst thing that you can do
Yes. Oh
sometimes,
my
because it's you
gosh.
Oh yeah,
unless
it's
you're like a
overrated.
yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
if you're a big creator and your view and you just happen to have to your and all your videos just hit millions all the time, then cool. But if you're like an average creator and you're like and you hit that million mark every so often, and then all of a sudden you're back down to normal, like you
Yep.
see it in your algorithm, you see it in your analytics where like you go from gaining 20,000 followers
Mm-hmm.
for 6 months, and then all of a sudden, but yet you're losing 10,000 followers
Yep.
within that 3 month span. It's like it hits you.
It does. It
Yeah,
really
it puts
Hmm.
does.
like it messes your confidence up a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
I have to remind myself that a lot of times it's really not, even if I'm 40 years old, it's really not about how many views and how many people you have. It's more about the impact too, like
Mm-hmm.
I always make it always make a chance or make sure that I'm always going out and doing my plumb bob checks, because I get a lot of messages from people and they're like, I really appreciate you just coming up here and asking us
Yes.
what color our plumb bob is,
I
because
love
it's a
those.
mental health awareness. It's giving people a moment to vent. But hey, you know what? I'm
Mhm.
orange today, but just being able to come in here and vent a little bit has actually increased my mood a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what keeps me going. It keeps me going to know that I do bring laughs and joy to those who are able to see the videos.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely think like we can definitely be our hardest critics.
Yes.
But I think it's important in the content creator space to have, different perspectives and also show that like I think another thing, like speaking on the age in particular, that like that
Mhm.
aspect is showing that like getting older is not necessarily like a bad thing.
It's not.
Mm-mm.
It's not.
Like, I think, for so long the media has portrayed like aging as like the worst thing that can happen. And I know that also has different connotations, especially like for women as
Yes.
well. Because even being for me, as a creator in her 20s, like uh you see all the messaging about
Oh
of
yeah.
like this is supposed to be like your prime and stuff like that. You're supposed to
Mhm.
do XYZ. So I think it's important to show that like life still goes on and that
Yeah.
like being 30 or being 40 like doesn't have to look a certain type of way. So I think that's important
It's
as
true.
well.
It's
Mhm.
true.
I also want to ask you, Phenom, like what has been your relationship kind of like maintaining your own identity as, a person, as a creator, alongside being a mom. So I know you touched
Whew.
on this earlier, but obviously, being a mom takes a lot of time. Your
Mhm.
kids will come into the stream. There's a
Oh
lot of,
yeah.
sometimes you have to take breaks and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, what has been kind of your relationship, kind of navigating this?
Um, just letting go, like, and just listening to my community, like, and as far as my community, like the people who have been there since day one, who are kind to me, who let me know when I need a break. Um, that has been like what has helped. I still get anxiety on stream for like activations or, sponsorships or front page because I'm always nervous about the new crowd of people who have not been here. So it always gives me anxiety a little bit. But luckily, I have been blessed with a community, and with friends and family who have told me, like, it's okay. You're not, you have to do this. You're a mom. Everybody knows that. We love Aussie. Like, stream. It's okay. So, and I'm like, the piggyback off the Nard, I'm always hard on myself, like, very, very hard. Like, oh my God, like, they can see something, or oh my God, does Austin have on pants? Like, it's just one of those things. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Aussie,
is that T'Challa?
That's
that is
the Freddy Krueger, right?
Wolverine. He's the
Okay, got
Wolverine
Oh,
in
Wolverine.
Deadpool
Wolverine.
fan.
My bad.
Wolverine.
Okay, Aussie, give me a minute, okay? My God, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was
Um,
awesome.
so I am always worried that I have I'm not going to be professional or look professional enough. But what I have found from companies, like sometimes they'll say, "Oh, we love Aussie. Is he able to join too?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute." Like, but so that has helped a little bit more. But what I'm working on is like the anxiety beforehand. Like, even though I hear all of these amazing things and this stuff from everybody, I just need to not panic so much. So,
Yeah.
mhm,
I think it definitely, yeah, we could definitely be our hardest critics for
mhm,
sure. But I think, showing up authentically, showing up as ourselves, like,
yes,
that's kind of what resonates with our audiences the
mhm,
most.
Cause they
mhm.
know when you're
Definitely.
fake. They know when
Oh
you're faking
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah. Mhm. Yes.
Absolutely. All right. So, my last question for you guys, I want to end out this conversation about self determination, and kind of owning who we are and kind of writing our own stories with this question of like, if you were to describe or if you were to name, I guess, the current chapter of your life, what would you name it?
Oh wow.
I'll
Oof.
start with Nard on this because Phenom answered the
Ugh.
last
Please.
question. Not to put you on the
I
spot.
love that
I know
Nard
you
goes
put me
first.
on the spot, man.
Put you.
Um,
Oh,
let's
whoops.
see. Um, let's see. What chapter would I be in right now? I would probably say this is the chapter where I'm gonna accept making changes, like pivoting when I feel like I need to, be having structure and being confidence. This is the chapter of change and confidence and
Hmm.
being the best I can be,
Yeah.
mentally, physically, and
Mm-hmm.
creatively. Because if
I
I
love
can nail
that.
all three of those, I'll be able to really show up for not only just my community, but for myself, for my friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think in being able to just to do me, do some self care in there, throw that in there, change, and some little bit of confidence, some self care, I think will be great because then that way, this next chapter for me is gonna be nothing but growth if I can do all that. Because if I can't show up for myself and I got all these self esteem issues, that's gonna
Mm-hmm.
show in a video. Because
Yep.
people are gonna be like, he doesn't seem himself,
Mm-hmm.
content doesn't feel like him, so yeah, I want to pivot a little bit and make sure that I'm taking care of myself and I'm making sure that taking care of me so I can show up for everybody and in my
Yeah.
content too.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's where we're at with it.
So you said change, or what was that again?
I'm gonna say change, and I want to pivot and just make changes in what's going on right now. I feel like if I can make a little bit of changes, then I'll be all right. I feel like I can pivot and work on my confidence and my self care. I think we'll be good.
Hmm. Pivot and change.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
my chapter. Pivot and change.
What about you, Phenom? What would you name this chapter of your life?
Healing. Healing and growth. Um, my son and I, we went through a lot, like this past year and like the year beforehand, and I have gotten back into like taking care of myself, my mental health, like going to therapy, learning to talk more about my feelings so that I can heal from certain things. Um, and that way, I don't always feel as exhausted when wanting to do certain projects or creating content or feeling like I have to push myself versus me just getting this being a normal routine. So I think that chapter would be called growth and healing for me.
Hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
all the healing themes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Hmm.
All right. That's beautiful. So that's all the questions for me. I do want to go through chat real fast to see if anybody had some questions. I think I saw a couple. Um, Let me see. Oh, not Zoe asks, I was wondering if any of you have any aspirations from the future of your streaming career.
Oh wow.
Nard, how
That's
about you can start? Or I guess
that's
for you, it would be streaming and content
yeah,
creation. I know
yeah.
you're on all the platforms.
Yeah. Again, just consistent growth. For streaming, I do want to. I only stream once a week, so I do have the goal of hopefully being able to maybe add one more day in there and do something a little bit different that I don't normally see on the streaming platform. So I think this upcoming year is going to be a year where I try things out that I've always wanted to see. That's going to consist of like maybe some live sketches, kind of. So I'm thinking about doing that. I'm thinking about doing like a behind the creator series as well.
Ooh.
And yeah, just to continue to grow and hopefully hit partner. It'd be kind of cool to get my viewers up a little bit. And I think if I stream at least add one more day of streaming, maybe that'll help. And again, just bringing something to the community that's a little bit different, but people can have value in it. Cause yeah, let's plays and doing builds and stuff is great and it's fun and it's a way to communicate with your community. But I feel like there's other ways that I could deliver something while still being able to be there for my community when it comes to streaming. Same with content creating as well. I want to continue to put effort in the writing and put effort in the quality of the videos so that way they can continue to stand out, continue to stay relevant, and to still stay within the Nardvillain brand. Like I want to start doing less, but pushing out more high quality. So like going from 3 videos to maybe 2, because
Dope.
I'm gonna be really producing these upcoming videos.
Hmm.
So, but it'll still stay within the realm of the brand. But yeah, that's my aspirations for streaming and content creating.
I love that.
Got it.
Yeah.
What about you, Phenom?
My goal is to become YouTube partner this year or the year after, whenever it's my time. And I also want to be more consistent with my YouTube content. My another aspiration is for me to um, become a name within the horror industry, not only horror gaming, but the horror industry, period. So those are
Like producing, or like what type of things do you think?
I I want to be a final girl in a horror film.
Mm.
And I would love to work with Rick Baker or KMB, Greg Nicotero, V Neil. So if you see this and you need an assistant, I would love to work with them and just learn from them and soak up all of their knowledge. And yeah, those are some of the things that I really am pushing for myself. For my Screen Reapers community, I just want their faces to be shown everywhere within the horror industry as well, and more opportunities for them also. So,
Mhm.
thank you,
Definitely.
Sissy.
No, got your family in the chat.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Let me see. Do we have any other
What about
questions?
you,
Or
Asmara? I'm curious to know what your
Yeah.
aspirations are too, though.
my
Shoot,
aspirations.
put you on the
Okay,
spot
not
a
you put
little
on the
bit.
spot. Listen, I've been a moderator this whole time. Um, I feel like I don't know. I kind of have a complex relationship with content creation right now. I think well, okay, I think for starters, like this series is kind of a reintroduction into doing more social commentary, more history, more what I call like edutainment type
Mhm.
content in the gaming space. That's kind of what I wanted to start this channel doing, and then um, some stuff happened, and I kind of got scared, so my
Yeah.
content changed a lot over the past few years. But yeah, I think like doing more. I actually put this phrase in my bio recently, but I think what I want my content create what I want my content to be about, whether it's here, whether it's through another medium, is giving people the opportunity to be changed. So
Mhm.
whether that is through like having meaningful discussions, whether that is through gaming, whether that's through like doing stuff in the actual like more traditional media, I think that's kind of what I want what I do to be about. So yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Oh
Still don't really
yeah.
know what I'm doing, but that's kind of where I would like to be.
That's normal.
So
Yeah.
cool. So
That
cool.
is so normal.
I'll definitely
Uh-huh.
say you've inspired some of your videos from a couple years ago
Mhm.
inspired me because you were so vulnerable about how
Yes.
you had to take that break and then how you came back and your experience as a black female creator in the gaming space. Being vulnerable has really inspired me to let me know also that I'm not alone and I'm not the only one that's being impacted or affected by like that viral moment or
Mhm.
just that burnout sensation and stuff like that. And I like that you still was able to just be yourself and
Mhm.
experiment with the games that you wanted to do and not let like that Sims viral video determine that you should just stick with the Sims content
Mhm.
even though that wasn't what you wanted. Plus
Yep.
your your editing skills, I'm a geek like that too. I like the video editing. So and all that stuff was just great. And the fact that you befriended me and you actually like added me and stuff, I was like, oh, all right, I'm cool, cool
Yes.
now.
Oh,
As
I
Mara added
Yeah.
me.
can I
Yeah.
say something? Like I told this story. Like I was so nervous going to the creators event because I had social anxiety and I wasn't going to come almost, and I literally walked up to the door and was going to turn around and leave, but one of the YouTube reps was like, "We're open," and I'm like, "Crap." And as Mara was one of the people who like I don't know how to explain it. She just had like this energy that I just felt safe with. And I
Hmm.
said, I hope she didn't think that I was like following her, being her shadow. But I felt so comfortable with her and she
Hmm.
welcomed me and was like, you can sit next to me. And I'm like, thank you. And the
Hmm.
conversations that we had was so, you helped me out so much because I don't if you hadn't have been there, I don't know. I probably would have been lost and I wouldn't have known what to do or where to sit. She was just so kind and so understanding. So I just want to tell you thank you. And my goal was to do more collabs. So thank you for helping me step out into that as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm
Of
so grateful
course,
for
I
you.
appreciate that.
Yes.
Also, for anybody watching, the way me and Phenom met is that we went to a YouTube creator collective in Baltimore. So that's what she's
Mhm.
talking about for
Yes.
context. But yeah, I really, I definitely appreciate that. I think
Yes.
like another thing that you said, or I think Nard said this earlier, but yeah, like I feel like I've definitely been, I guess, more nervous, I guess, to show up on the different social platforms. Like, I think part of me is like, what do I really have to add? Like, who's gonna
Mhm.
wanna listen to, like, I started my channel, I was 19. Like, who's gonna wanna listen to like a
Wow.
19-year-old
Oh.
talk? And so, I don't know, to hear that you guys, like, even, you know, with the age difference, have also been influenced by my content and my
Mhm.
channel, I appreciate that.
We
Yeah.
appreciate you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Appreciate you.
Mhm.
um, Okay, there's a couple more comments I wanna go through before we end. This is not really a question, but Shemjen says, "Black don't crack." Nard, your age never surprised me,
Hey.
but but I feel like a lot of simmers are female or feminine,
Mhm.
and male gamers
Hmm.
act like The Sims isn't a real game. It's cool to
Yes.
see you, yeah, like on the
Yeah.
platform.
Oh
Yeah, I
So
my
I
get that
guess
a
god.
maybe a
lot too.
little, yeah, I guess like another question would be like, what is your experience being like a male simmer, I guess. What is like being the minority?
It's like being it's like a double minority
Please
almost.
don't
Cause
put
like
me
when
there,
I'm
Nod.
on
Please.
TikTok, yeah, it's like a double minority. It's like when I'm on
Mhm.
TikTok, I get a lot of comments like, "Wow, like you're a black simmer and you're male."
Mhm.
It's interesting because like in the simming community, you do have your. It seems like in the simming community, that everybody kind of looks the same, sorta. You know, like it's mostly female,
Mhm.
or we're shown that it's mostly a female demographic, younger also obviously. So when people see me on TikTok and or whatever, first of all they see how old I look, and then they see that I'm also a black simmer. So yeah, I get a lot of like, wow, that's actually really cool. So,
Mhm.
you know, it's actually okay that I'm watching someone that's not doing a first person shooter game, you know.
Yes.
So it's actually really cool.
Mhm.
That I get that from time to time too.
Oh my god,
So
I was
yeah.
so happy when I found it. And he's hilarious. Like he goes into the videos and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to learn how to play this pack." And then he
Mhm.
puts on the straight dag dag and it cracks me up
Mhm.
every time.
Mhm.
Every time. I love his
I
content.
appreciate that. I appreciate.
No
See,
problem.
yeah, my influences are like Martin. Remember the Martin TV show, like
Yes.
just stuff like that.
Yes. I could
Martin.
see it. I could see it.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle
Amazing.
show, Key and Peele.
Mm-hmm.
And I just come from a horror background, which I don't really throw in enough of. But yeah,
I
it's just.
think you listen. I'm fine. This gore horror is pleased with
Mhm.
your content, so I
Yes.
you are doing great.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
hmm Also on the I just thought of one more question on the horror topic. I'm also curious about what your like relationship with horror is as a black person, because I don't know about y'all, and like obviously nobody's experience is
Mhm.
monolithic, but I very much came from like we don't summon no spirits but the Holy Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
I want to know like what has been your relationship, I guess, with horror as a black person too.
My mom, she was very religious, and I remember us watching Chucky, and when he told Andy, "Let's play hide the soul," and he started chanting, and my mother is like, "Don't you repeat that? You don't know what that's saying." So, and I always took that with me, and I'm like, I'm not saying this because she's gonna turn the movie off, but
Yeah.
even then, and still like. And I feel like it's important because, like, when I talk to people, they're like, "You watch that? That's so young." But I think it's also important for us to have those conversations with our children. Like, this is, and my dad did that. He was like, "This is our time, but if you do this in real life, you're going to jail for a very long time."
Yeah.
And I understood that. But and even though we had like our bonding time, it was still life lessons. Like, my mother was religious, but we had like healers and voodoo priestess and stuff like that in our family, and we were very knowledgeable of that. So even though she didn't like those movies, it brought out times where she was like, well, your great aunt used to do this, and your great uncle used to do that. So we learned more about our history and learned about our culture, not only within our family, but as African Americans and indigenous individuals as well. So I kind of like horror. It's crazy because I tell people like, you bonded through horror with your family, and I'm like, yeah, that's me and my dad's thing. But it also brought out that conversation of history with my mom. So even though she couldn't stand it, like, she was in support of me and my dad having that bonding time, or she was in support of me finding something that made me happy that I liked. Even though, Jason doing a sleeping bag kill, she's like, "Oh my God." But that was like the highlights of the movie for me. She's
Hmm.
just like, "What?" But she could appreciate like the joy. That
Yeah.
sounds so bad. The joy that I had in something that I liked. And it wasn't, I was choosing to be myself and not like what everybody else liked or wanted to do what everybody else wanted to do. So that was our really,
Self-determination.
Just
yes, yes,
imagine the arm strength you need to
yes,
bash somebody with a sleeping bag up against a
yes,
tree. When I first
yes,
saw that, I was like, "Now that is some strength right there."
yes. Oh my
Like,
gosh.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah. What
I'm
about you,
actually
Nard? Like,
jealous.
what is?
Yeah, I'm jealous because I didn't get that chance to actually experience horror movies
Mhm.
with my family because my mom was a churchgoer and my stepdad also was a churchgoer, and so but we weren't like super strict, like
Right.
so we weren't like, "Oh, you can't watch horror movies," blah blah blah. It's
Mhm.
just that wasn't the thing to do together. We
Right.
were watching maybe Soul Food
Mhm.
or like I don't know, they'll go take me to the movies to go see Ninja Turtles 2 or something
Right.
crazy like that. So if I wanted to see horror, I would have to go to my aunt's house, and
Oh,
that's when I was
okay.
introduced to like Carrie and
Mhm.
Christine and
Yes.
Cujo and
Mhm.
Friday
Shout out to
13th.
the aunties. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
my aunt Joyce was the one where I would go and watch horror movies when I had my sleepovers
Awesome.
over there. But
Kudos
it
on
terrified
Joyce.
me. Yeah, Aunt Joyce. But I didn't really appreciate the horror genre until I maybe was in high school,
Mhm.
because at one point I was actually terrified of like Friday the 13th. It had me
Oh
up. I used to
wow.
have nightmares.
Oh
Like
no.
nightmares, I used to just like stay awake and I wouldn't go to bed because I was so intrigued in horror, but
Mhm.
the consequences of wanting to watch like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the
Mhm.
13th and all those was the fact that I wouldn't be able to sleep at night because I was
Right.
terrified.
Mhm.
And then after that, I started to embrace like, why is this stuff scaring me so much? To the
Mhm.
point where now I'm just such a fanatic over just the
Yes.
concept of horror that now
Mhm.
I'm just like a huge fan, especially the Friday the 13th franchise.
Yes.
Only because I was like, man, that dude used to keep me up all night,
Mhm.
even during the
Mhm.
day. Because I was like, all
Yes.
right, just don't go to sleep for Freddy Krueger because he'll get you in your dreams. And
Mhm.
then I was like, well, what about Jason though? Because
Yep.
he'll get you during the day and at
Oh
night.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I was
But
like,
you know
man, I'm
what, I
screwed.
always, that's what kept me and I hate to say, but that's what kept me like, I'm not going near boys, because if I go to summer camp
Mm-hmm.
and I do something I'm not supposed to,
Yeah.
Mrs. Voorhees and Jason is going. So that's what, like, I tried to use those
Yeah.
tools as, no sexy
Mm-hmm.
time when you go to Camp Crystal
Yeah.
Lake.
Right.
No. Mm-mm.
Right.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yes.
that's pretty much where I was at with horror, but I wish I could have had that enjoyment with family, but I have it with friends though, so it's
Yeah.
always nice.
That's cool.
Hmm.
That is
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, I think we've gotten through all the chat messages. Yeah, thank you guys, for being here. Thank
Thank
you,
Thank
Nard
you.
you.
and Phenom, for joining me, and thank you everybody who's been watching throughout the
Yeah.
stream. I've loved, getting to read your messages and things like that. But if you're watching this back, please leave a comment below for the algorithm. That'd be
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
appreciated.
Hmm.
Please.
Um, and share this link with somebody who would appreciate this conversation today.
And like
I'll
it.
try to also get like a social media clip up. That'd also make it easier to share as well. But yeah, I have both of Phenom's links and Nardvillain's links in the description below. Is there anything in particular that people should be looking for, should look out for?
Um, yeah, just more video content streaming every Thursday, and
Hmm.
I'm about to drop a video about how much money we spent on in the Sims game. So
Ooh.
yeah,
Oh
so
Oh
my
yeah,
God.
hopefully
Not
definitely a
you
couple
calling
thousand,
me
right?
out.
yeah, a couple thousand. Yeah, it's
Oh
in the
my God.
thousands. It's in
Hmm.
the thousands.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. For
Mhm.
me, look out for more horror content. Friday the 13th, the game is leaving unfortunately on the 31st. So we're going to play Friday the 13th on live streams, and then cry about it. I'm also going to make a blog post about it on my website. So if you want to hear my journey with Friday the 13th and how I am a gun media girl for life, be sure to check that out as well.
Definitely. All right. So yes, check out their links in the description again, and they're also like linked in the title of the video. Give them a follow and be back tomorrow. I'm uploading
Yes.
daily for Kwanzaa. So if you enjoyed this conversation, come back tomorrow. I got more content for you. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for
All
having
right.
us.
Of
Thank you.
course. Happy Kwanzaa,
Happy
Yeah.
everyone.
Kwanzaa.
Yeah.
Gold.